I will just give a little snippet of some of the priorities that we have for our statewide campaigns that are happening right now in the legislative session, right there in your wonderful community of Olympia in the state capitol. So just to give a little bit of an overview, every year we identify the key issues that we're going to work on. Sometimes we take a lead role in those, sometimes we participate in those in a supporting role, along with our coalition partners, and sometimes it's a little bit of both. But as you might know, this is our short year, as they call it. The 60-day session started back on January 11th, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It feels like it's already halfway over, and it just started a couple weeks ago. It's been going at kind of a breakneck speed. But the three issues that we're working on are improving recycling and sea level rise planning and protecting kelp and eelgrass. And then there's a couple other issues that we're tracking. I'll touch on those towards the end. But the Renew Act, as it's called, would basically reimagine Washington's recycling program as we know it. And why this is really a key thing is that our recycling rates have actually been declining significantly over the last 10 years. And while we in the Puget Sound region think that we have really good recycling, and we do, the truth is that actually only about 58% of Washington households have access to curbside recycling. So there's a lot of room for improvement in the system. And we know that there's a lot of single-use plastics that are made in packaging that are creating problems in our communities, in our recycling, and littering our beaches and our waterways. And so we're hoping to change the system basically to establish an extended producer responsibility system that makes producers of this packaging and paper products responsible for the full life cycle of their products. And that would require that by 2031, 100% of the packaging and paper products made or sold in Washington is reusable, recyclable, or compostable. It would really, again, provide uniform recycling access to all residents of the state, create a harmonized list that's clear for what can and can't be recycled, and then set recycling and reuse targets that ramp up over time. So this is something that's been done in Canada successfully, and it's also been done successfully in European countries. And so we're trying to take the best of what they've learned over time that works well and employ that here within Washington state. So we had a really great hearing on that last week in the Senate Environment, Energy, and Telecommunications Committee, and a ton of people signed in pro for that bill, which is really great to see. Many of you probably did that. Really appreciate that support. It's definitely run into some opposition from the producers who are freaking out a little bit. So it's a little bit hard to say at this point, and whether it's going to go in kind of the original way that we've envisioned it. But we're really trying to hold tight to especially the plastics piece, and make sure that that's in there if it goes, and really ideally making this as comprehensive as possible, being a model for other states around the country. The other issue that we're working on is sea level rise planning now, and that's part of this larger effort being led by the conservation group or planning group called FutureWise. It's part of this effort to update the Growth Management Act, which is a really foundational piece of our statewide land use plannings. It would require the largest and fastest growing counties and cities to choose from a list of actions from the Department of Commerce to reduce their vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. So thinking about how can we at a local community level plan for walkable, bikeable, alternative transportation modes of transportation, so that we can reduce the amount of entering our atmosphere impact our local waters through ocean acidification. So additionally on that, it would also require that counties and cities are planning under the comprehensive plan to address the impacts of climate hazards, whether they be sea level rise or increasing storm severity or wildland fire, things like that, including in part of their planning efforts. And then it also includes a definition for environmental justice within the Growth Management Act and stipulates that our land use planning should work to achieve environmental justice and not worsen existing environmental health disparities that are out there. And I will real quickly drop in the link. I know, Christine, huge shout out to you. Oh, Liz already beat me to the punch. Tammy, you're always on top of it. But thank you, Christine, for sharing that on the social media channels. Really appreciate that and love seeing it out there. And letting folks know what we're up to. The last piece that I will talk about. And before Liz put the bullet in there. House Bill 1099 did pass the House last week. It now heads over to the Senate. It's going to be a little bit more of an uphill lift there, but we're optimistic that we can get it through. It is in the governor's recommended budget, so that's a really good first step. And so we will let you know when the time is right to pick up the phone or write an email and contact your state senator and help us get that over the finish line. That's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then the last one is House Bill 1661 or Senate Bill 5619 to protect kelp forests and seagrass meadows through conservation and restoration. The goal of this is to protect and restore 10,000 acres by 2040. And so this builds on the momentum that has been created over the last 5 or so years in developing a kelp restoration and conservation plan and a eelgrass conservation plan that really focus more on the Puget Sound region, but this takes it a step further and recognizes this importance on the statewide level, incorporating the outer coast and Willapa and Grays Harbor as well. And so, and keeps momentum going in the right direction and some funding to make that happen. So really optimistic that this is going to pass. It seems like it has a lot of support. I was able to give some testimony on it last week in the committee, and excited to see hopefully as many of these as possible get across the finish line. So that's a lot. I'm recognizing. All of these have lots more information if you want to dive in a little bit deeper with one-pagers and things like that in the blog post that Liz linked to there, and some just little updates and ways that you can potentially help out. Over the next couple of weeks, things are going to definitely ramp up. So we will be reaching out, circling back, letting you know when the time is right to fire off that email or pick up the phone and call your state senator, things like that. I will just briefly mention the other bills that we're following. One is a derelict vessel removal bill, which basically provides additional funding to remove those vessels that unfortunately people have abandoned and are breaking apart and creating more marine debris or leaking oil, things like that. So this would be for the Department of Natural Resources to do a better job of removing those vessels. Another bill we're taking a look at is kind of a aquatic safety bill that would require life jackets for people that are stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, canoeing, things like that in non-motorized vessels. And so there's a couple little nuances to that there that we're just kind of keeping an eye on to make sure that they don't have any unintended consequences, but they actually get at that issue of trying to prevent people from drowning. And then the last one is maybe a little bit more focused on salmon, but looking at shoreline habitat. And the bill number is Senate Bill 5885, that basically would provide funding for shoreline monitoring to happen basically with kind of like a Google Street View around the sound to look at shoreline structures and what the current state is, and would require anytime those structures, if they're being updated, that they meet updated codes that try and reduce the habitat impacts to salmon and other aquatic organisms that we care about, like kelp and eelgrass. So that is a lot. Thank you so much for the time. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any. I think I'm about to get Zoom bombed here by my 1-year-old who's naked and just got out of the bathtub. But if you want to fire a couple questions at me now, feel free. Otherwise, feel free to reach out via text or via phone if you'd like. And here's the little guy right now who came to say hi, and future coastal defender here. So yeah, great to see all of you though.
He's looking big.
He's growing fast. Walking and talking. I'm gonna pass him off. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody have any questions? You cover it all. Nailed it.
Right on. Cool. Well, like I said, feel free to ping me if a light bulb goes off at 2 a.m. or something like that when you can't sleep and you want to know some more details about some of these bills or something like that.
I got a question.
Yeah, sweet. Go ahead, Kurt.
On the Renew Act, Garen, is this to renew any existing laws, or are these just new laws? In other words, why do they call it renew?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were really struggling with a catchy acronym. And I don't know, we just kind of settled on this renew term to renew our efforts on recycling and renew our commitment to making sure that we're actually doing all that we can to make sure that we're actually reusing these, reducing our consumption, and recycling these things. Really, the biggest thing that really kicked this whole effort into gear was the fact that China and offshore country or overseas countries stopped accepting all of our stuff that was so messy and commingled and just not recyclable, unfortunately. And so it kind of led to this effort of how can we do a better job here locally and creating this circular economy, ideally creating some jobs here in the United States and in Washington State to actually recover these materials and reuse them and recycle them if as a last resort.
Yeah.
It's a long-winded answer of renewing our commitment basically to reducing waste, reimagining how our system can work.
Well, we sure did slip into that the whole quagmire by the late 80s where they said, well, we can have this made in China cheaper. And first it was Mexico, then within a couple of years they were yanking their roots out of there and running to China. And it seems like everything was going there, even things we should be doing ourselves. It was always, I think, a little mind-boggling to all of us to think that our plastic bottles and such was going over to China to be recycled back to us. None of it was logical with all of that fuel to run it back and forth and the effort. But it's time that we opened up more of that kind of industry here, and I certainly see a reason to support that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully. Ideally, it could be a bipartisan bill and something that people would recognize as a job creator here locally. I think that we have some information on that really looks at the potential.
I have a question.
Value. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Dave.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I don't actually turn my sound off because Chrissy's is on. So my question is what can you explain a little more about the life jacket thing? Has there been a lot of deaths for paddleboarders and whatnot? And then does that extend to surfing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question, Dave. Yes, unfortunately, there has been. And, what statistically, and I could drop the bill number in here in just a second. Statistics show that when people are required to wear a life jacket, that the number of drownings and deaths declines significantly. Sorry, I'm getting some background noise. The chaos is really starting here. It really, basically it shows that when you require people to wear life jackets, that it works and it has the intended result. And so your question about, could that be applied in the surf is definitely something that we're a little bit concerned about, and something that we feel like would be a little bit of an overreach on that. So there are some specific things in the bill and on review that we feel pretty comfortable about. It really would only apply to stand-up paddle boards. And I'd have to actually go back and look at this. I can't remember if it was 100 feet or 100 yards from the shore. Basically creates that zone that is exempt. And it also exempts things like doing stand-up paddle yoga. So if you like to do that, rest assured you won't be required to wear a life jacket. I kind of laughed about it when I read the bill, but it kind of makes sense that
did you say stand-up yoga on a paddle board?
Yeah, people, okay. It's a thing. If you want to Google it, I'll leave you to it. But yeah, so there's some details of the bill. I think it is House Bill 1771. I'll drop it in here. But if you want to take a look at that, oops, I sent it to Liz's direct message. Sorry about that. But yeah, you can do that. I can also dig it up here real quick and drop the link in for you in a second. I can't do two things at one time though, so I'll turn on the mute.
Awesome. Any other questions, Yo? While he's digging up that link.
Mute yourself.
Right on. Well, thank you so much, Gus. You are always a wealth of information and the best sidekick a gal could ask for. He is not my sidekick in any way, shape, or form. Awesome. Well, we will, I guess, move along to the regularly scheduled events.
I just realized I said the wrong bill number, so I gotta dig back through my text chain here or look at my notes. So I'll drop the link in here in just a second.
All right. Well, while he's doing that, I'll sort of get us started on our year in review, which I'm pretty stoked about. So as I'm sure you're all aware, we have a variety of programs that our Olympia chapter here engages in under our plastic pollution and clean water initiatives. So we'll kind of go through each of these and what we got done. And Christine and I are gonna bounce back and forth. So we had three big coastal cleanups. So every year annually, Washington and Coast Savers engages in three big coastal cleanups that we participated in. So Washington Coastal Cleanup Day was in April, and then we have the July 5th cleanup in July, and then International Coastal Cleanup Day in September. And so we had fairly limited participation compared to other years just because of COVID and restrictions and things like that. But we still collected over 2,500 pounds. That's kind of that's just an estimate from Washington and International Coastal Cleanup. The July 5th cleanup is a little harder to measure because they get like literal dumpsters full. So there's tons, like literal tons of debris that came off the beaches, but they set up those dumpsters like for a couple days before and after the cleanup. And so I don't want to count that as like, we collected 400 tons of debris because we didn't, but a lot of garbage came off the beach in that weekend. So, and yeah, just a big shout out to Washington State Parks and Washington Coast Savers because they're big partners on those big outer coast cleanups. And then also on the outer coast, I'm sure you're all familiar, we've been working on our yellow ropes roundups with Grays Harbor Stream Team, Twin Harbors Waterkeeper, Net Your Problem, and a bunch of shellfish growers as part of the Pacific Coast Shellfish Growers Association. So the yellow ropes get out into the water as part of shellfish aquaculture. And we've been collecting them for a while now. And this year alone, we got over 25,000 ropes. And that's just the cleanups that the Olympia chapter participated in specifically. These partners here listed have been going out rogue all the time, all year long, collecting them. And I think they've got, I don't know, 70, 80,000 ropes this year, something crazy. Like, it's nuts. There's so many out there. So we did host 6 cleanups. Most of them we scheduled after a king tide. So most of the cleanups we participate in are in the winter months, so we can get those king tides. So, and we did have one recently that was kind of canceled, but some of us still went, and it was a good time. A tsunami did not wash us away. Oh, and the other cool thing I wanted to mention is this picture in the middle here are the crab gauges that we have. So we're in a partnership with Net Your Problem, which takes marine debris and recycles it in some way. And so we actually have a whole system set up where they collect it, and then it gets shipped to a company called Ocean Legacy in British Columbia, where they separate it and turn it into plastic pellets again. And then we melt those plastic pellets into what is pictured here, our Dungeness crab gauges, which is a really cool like partnership with Washington Sea Grant that we've been doing. So it's really cool, and I kind of want to see. I think they're making crab calipers or something next. So it's kind of cool project that we're all sort of pitching in on together to sort of repurpose and recycle all of this yellow rope. So cool stuff. And then,
Liz, can I interject something there? You in that trash dumpster there, you show a bunch of fireworks stuff. And I remember when I was out in, I think it was July when I went out there, and I was surprised that people had been shooting off fireworks on the beach. Now, the first thing is, well, nothing to catch on fire out here. So then they leave all the things that go shooting in the air all over the place. And it seems to me that when we're talking about legislation, that's exactly what should not be allowed, that it's not a matter of just having these things where they don't start fires, but where they don't make a mess. And
there's literally nothing good about fireworks. They're full of toxic chemicals and heavy metals. They disturb wildlife. They start fires. They create a whole bunch of trash, much of which is toxic. But banning fireworks, even if there are bans in place, which many cities and beaches do, they just sort of don't get enforced. Like what are enforcement agencies supposed to do on the 4th of July? Like arrest everybody? Like it seems to be a pretty sticky issue when it comes to actually instituting and implementing firework bans.
Well, the problem is access. You get them off the Indian reservations, and that makes it easy access because they're not covered by city laws.
Exactly. So, and it's not, I'm not going to step in and be like, reservations, you guys no longer have the source of income. Like, that's not what I want to do. To me, I think what we can do as Surfrider going forward, right now we're focused on all this EPR bill stuff, but I hope in the future we will start addressing fireworks. And to me, I think it just comes to getting them out of the fireworks that are manufactured, just like stop putting plastic in them. It doesn't solve all the problems with fireworks, obviously, but as far as the pollution side of it, the plastic pollution side of it, just preventing them from using plastics is, to me, likely one of the more effective strategies we could take going forward. And then, of course, just raising awareness. I know the parks have asked us right before COVID, they asked us to do some outreach on July 4th to help promote like awareness of the issue of plastics being launched into the ocean en masse in the beaches. So, but COVID ruined all those plans. So hopefully going forward, we might be able to do a little bit more targeted outreach on July 4th, because they have firefighters out there already at those busy beach access locations talking about fire safety. And they've asked us to sort of partner up at those same locations and be like, hey, also maybe pick up your trash. I don't know. So to be continued, but that is, it's one of the top things we see on beaches, especially 4th of July is just, it's nuts. So to be continued. The other cool thing we did on the Outer Coast was, as part of International Coastal Cleanup Day, we participated in an Etap survey. So that stands for Escaped Trash Assessment Protocol. And it's the EPA, the federal EPA. It's their standardized method for assessing what is called trash loading of coastal and inland areas. So it's a little bit more robust of a data collection effort than our normal beach cleanup data that we collect for Surfrider, but it creates a per square foot amount for each type of trash. So that's a little bit more robust when they're trying to influence more robust policy actions, and guide that upstream source reduction. And so our main partner with this is Zero Waste Washington has been leading this effort and engaging in multiple chapters, have done Etap surveys on their cleanups so far. And the goal ultimately is to hopefully get plastics listed as a water pollutant under the Clean Water Act. Because right now, you know, things like metals and whatever, like bacteria and things like those are all listed as water pollutants. And what happens is it just creates this federal mechanism that mandates that states respond to a polluted waterway. And so if we can get plastics listed, that will sort of force us to take like much more strong action to deal with plastic pollution in our waters. Because right now it's not nearly as, it's not built into the system to deal with. And then more locally, I'll turn it over to Christine if you want to talk about butts.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite thing are the downtown cigarette butt pickups. So we did 7 of them last year, which is crazy. Volunteers picked up 27,442 butts off the downtown streets. And remember, we only do it for an hour. So we never really get a chance to comb very much mileage there. And we still pick up that many. So anyway, that's pretty cool that we did that. Thanks for volunteers for that. Karen and Riley especially come to every single one. And I think Kurt's the winner for butts.
So I think somebody beat me by a few. One woman, and I wasn't there that day.
Oh, I don't know. I think overall total.
I don't know. Well, maybe overall, yeah.
Yeah.
All the pickups, yeah. I think I still win there.
Yeah. So we have our canisters around town, and I have a bunch of canisters in my garage. So if anybody knows of I don't know, restaurants or any businesses who might be interested in, you guys can let us know. I know this year for our butt pickups, one of our goals is to maybe kind of hone it in and really map it out, almost like an ETAP, or maybe we'll even do an ETAP and focus on a certain area of our downtown. But it would be really cool to kind of maybe just really map out the downtown and where we're finding the most butts, so that we can use that data to talk to restaurants and businesses about getting canisters. And then of course, you know, it might be down the line, but maybe there can be some legislation besides litter laws that can help with the problem of cigarette butts.
Christy?
Yeah.
Can I say something here? Because Christine, I'm sorry. I had been talking with Liz about this earlier, and I am going to have to leave at 10 till, which is another 6 minutes. So it's a good point to interject here, and then you can go on. But one of the things we don't do is get in the newspapers with the cigarette butt pickup and other things, but particular cigarette butts, because we do get so many, and I don't think people realize the numbers. And I think if you got it in the newspapers and more often with what we do, then people are going to see the real numbers. They don't think of like little plastic bits as being a big problem until they find out how much you're picking up off the beach every single time you go out there, and other places too. But the cigarette butt situation right now in California, they're reviving an initiative or I should say a proposal before the state government to ban cigarettes with butts. And they could do that within the state, but the problem is, you know, as many of you probably know, is that cigarette butts years ago used to be made out of cotton, and it wasn't as big a deal. But what we need to do now, instead of just talking about or doing these nice little humble things, is push, and I would say right now, in the near future, is start pushing towards the goal of getting out an initiative or something for people to sign. What am I thinking? Oh, I'm sorry.
Like a petition?
Petition, thank you, to ban cigarette butts in the state. And, there's other ways to do it. I mean, they could always fix it so that people don't get tobacco in their mouth, because there's nothing that they don't really protect you from anything. But the point is that if you get this in the local newspaper, starting off with our next butt pickup in the Olympian, then who knows, maybe eventually we get covered by the Seattle Times, and then it puts it out there in more people's discussion, because when people hear about it in the paper, they say, oh yeah, I read about that in the newspaper. And these various things become more of an open topic that they can discuss, and you can feel a little bit more congealing of the group mindset about getting things brought to a higher level of the government. And I think that if you would do that with our next one, approach the Olympian beforehand, talk with an individual reporter, ask them to come out for the hour we collect and see what we get and get it in their paper. And then we do that again on another level. And eventually in a year or two, we could start doing a petition to get people to see that, there's these little discussion here. Should we, about how we want to approach it. But this topic's coming back up in California, and it very well may succeed, because most people don't smoke and they don't care about having those things on the ground. And I think that, it's not an argument of, well, you're trying to prevent people's individual rights. Well, it's nobody's individual right to litter. And certainly that's the problem. You can smoke, but we just don't want the butts. And so I hope that you can take that additional step so that down the road, we start getting more publicity out in the open public about what these things are, so we can move on at the legislative level.
Yeah, well, and that's why collecting the data, and hopefully this year also kind of honing in and really mapping it out, getting that data more like the Etap kind of was done, can really help with any policy or legislative work, because I mean, you need data to drive anything. But yes, I agree. We need, we're on social media about it all the time, so we do get the word out that way. But you're right. I always have conversations when we're doing the butt pickup, and I talk to people all along the way, and the smokers and people who say thank you, and
Right.
Nobody seems to know that there's a plastic filter in there. So education definitely, but I mean that definitely Thurston Talk would be a really great place. But that is one of our goals, is to try to get a little bit more
Publicity. Get the
out
word
there.
out.
We're going to do the best that we can with our limited EC people that we have. But
if you see, you can get a reporter out at our next butt pickup, or one after that, so we can actually get it out there in the paper.
That would be a feat for sure, because the Olympians never showed up for anything I've invited them to, but Thurston Talk always publishes stuff. So if we get them on the calendar on Thurston Talk, and we'll reach out to the Olympian. Those are good ideas. Thanks, Kurt.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I think maybe down the road, we can start like a Hold On to Your Butt subcommittee that's just kind of focuses on this and sort of comes up with a plan. A butt committee. I just want to be on a butt committee. Sorry. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kurt. And thanks for showing up all the time and being a
if you leave, you're going to miss your special slide, but we'll have Liz send it to you.
Yeah. I'll share.
Oh.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right. Well, let's see. I'll give it one more minute.
Ocean friendly restaurants.
Yes. Okay. So this one we can be sort of quick about, because there's kind of a lot that goes in with ocean friendly restaurants, and we'll probably do one of our public meetings. I don't know, maybe like the March one will be focused on this, so we can really dive into it. Otherwise, if you're wondering kind of more about it, it's totally easy just to get on surfrider.org and look at their ocean friendly restaurants program, and it just lays it out, obviously way more than this. On this slide, you can just see we've listed the main criteria that a restaurant has to meet. These are non-negotiable criteria. There's also a whole set of maybe 10 criteria that are options that they can pick 2 or 3 out of as well. So we don't actually have any current OFRs right now. No
That's
one.
not true. We do. I checked. They're still
They
current.
are?
Everybody got a free pass until April. So we have
Oh.
7 current OFRs. So good for them.
Oh, that is good. Well, I better get down there and check, because I'm not sure during the pandemic whether or not they were able to
Be compliant.
back off from some of this criteria, whether they're meeting that. 3 Magnets I know had some trouble just because of staffing. Like, they had to use disposable stuff on site because they couldn't keep the staff to wash dishes. So it's been a real struggle for OFRs, but the restaurants you see listed there have just always been really cool. So we just want to keep promoting that, and then just watch our newsletters and things, and we can keep you updated on what they're doing and where they're at.
Totally. And if you eat there, tell them thank you for being ocean friendly.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I can do a quick Blue Water Task Force overview. So as you all know, we sample 3 locations at Priest Point Park throughout the summer months as part of the Ecology's Beach program. And we drop our labs off at the local lab and they get processed for us, which is very nice. We don't have to process anything, which is so great. This summer we had 8 high hits. So roughly 80 to 90% of our samples met the statewide water quality standards. So you can check out those results. But a lot of those high hits were correlated with our crazy heat wave. And so it's just another example of the compounding effects of climate change. So, and thank you to everybody here who helped collect samples at least once or twice throughout the summer. And if you know anybody who'd be interested, send them our way. And yeah, and we'll probably retouch on this in April when we'll start sort of planning our training and recruiting more volunteers for sampling that begins in late May. So more on that later. And Gus already sort of touched on this, but last year we had a really successful civic engagement effort, both statewide and locally. So Environmental Lobby Day was really successful. It was virtual last year and it is virtual again this year, and it's happening literally right now. I think tomorrow is the last day as part of Environmental Lobby Day. And we did have several statewide victories. So campaigns are sort of how we measure success at Surfrider. So a coastal victory is something that we think is really cool because it's usually a permanent change for the better for the environment. So we had a couple statewide victories. So the SB 5022 is what successfully completed our foam-free Washington campaign to ban styrofoam. So that is awesome. And then we banned seabed mining in state waters last year as well, which is a really successful bipartisan bill. That was super fun to work on. And I learned a lot about seabed mining. We also had a local victory in Bellingham that was a plastics ordinance as well. So we basically won every fight that we were currently fighting last year. So that's great. And so now we have all new campaigns. Hooray. And then Ocean Hill Day is our federal lobbying effort. And that's going to happen again March 8th through 10th, March 8, 9, and 10. Yes, something like that. I might be off a day. But that's where we meet with our federal legislators. In normal years, people fly from every chapter to Washington, D.C. to actually lobby on the Hill. Last year it was virtual, which had actually a lot of benefit to it. Probably not as much fun, not as much like random karaoke night stories that come out of it, but we had 2 different delegations, which is awesome. So 8 chapter leaders met with 8 different federal legislators and lobbied for things like the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act and the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act, neither of which passed because, you know, the federal government just doesn't really want to get anything done. But we're going to keep trying this year for those same bills, as well as continue pushing for more funding for things like the beach program and clean water infrastructure, because we need that. And what else? So that's sort of our programmatic and campaign work. And then just a quick look in the past, we had quite a few virtual meetings last year, so not as much fun as in-person meetings, but we still got things done. And we had some really cool speakers on everything from yellow ropes and trash to stormwater and salmon. And the Olympia High School Climate Action Club was awesome and inspiring. And also ocean acidification project that DNR has, tracking that throughout Puget Sound. And we record all of these and put them on our YouTube channel. And I was probably not the most flattering screenshot. I panicked and took it off of a random YouTube video. So I apologize if anybody was not pleased with their image in that picture. And we also had a couple film screenings, and Jill's not here, but she deserves a huge shout out because she basically spearheaded all of these and did a great job advertising and finding speakers and films. And so we had our She is the Ocean film, which was so inspiring. He had such a good panel of like just badass women doing cool stuff with strong connections to the ocean. And then our short film fest had a whole medley of short films that was great. And we had a couple of the different film makers on our panel. And then Voice Above Water was another plastic pollution short film that we highlighted in August. And Dana Frankoff kind of was the film producer, and she was great talking about her experience making the film about a like 90-something-year-old Indonesian man who he used to be a fisherman, and then he's like, I don't catch fish anymore, I catch plastic. So that's what he does, he just catches plastic. And then coming up, we have another screening of The Story of Plastic. Christine, do you want to plug that at all?
Only just make sure that you come. We'll try to have it set up so that you have a week to view it. And then we'll have Steve Wilson, the executive producer, on our end of the month meeting night, who will be able to answer questions. And I'm hoping that also that evening we'll be able to get a preview of his new film that they're working on, which has to do with how much plastic is polluting the air. Yeah.
And we'll hopefully get a rescreening, another try at, I forget the name of the documentary, but it was the Puyallup tribe and their efforts to restore salmon. We had that scheduled and had to cancel it for, I forget what reason, probably COVID related. So we will probably try to screen that at some point in the future. So stay tuned for that. And then if you didn't check it out, Christine and I were on TV on Community Media's Mission Nonprofit. So they actually have this really cute series of local nonprofits doing stuff. And I actually kind of went in a YouTube hole and watched a bunch, and it was really informative. So
yeah, they're really interesting. It was super fun. It was funny when they asked us, Liz and I are like, oh, I have to be on TV. Like,
I know, I was like, I'm looking real awkward. I'm like, how do I sit in this chair? But it was super fun. So
yeah.
But hopefully virtual will be in the past sometime this year. All right, I'll turn it over to you, Christine.
Oh, volunteers. We can't do anything without you. Well, Liz does some stuff and she gets paid though, I think, a little bit.
I can't do anything without you.
Riley and Karen, you guys are superstars. You come to just about every cigarette butt cleanup. I can look in the picture and there you guys are, just about every yellow ropes. I don't know how you do that, get out there that early. And then even if it's not a yellow rope cleanup, you come to all the other cleanups out there at the beach. So thank you so much to you guys. And then Kurt, who left, he just is.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love you guys. And Kurt, I think he picked up so many butts, honestly, because he never came back on time. He just got so into picking up those butts. He just had such a good time. So a shout out to him for that. And then Erica reached out to us early on and she did some water quality testing. So that was cool to have an extra person for the Blue Water Task Force.
Yeah, she was great. And more pictures.
And more shout outs. We had some regulars, which is why we put this up, some regular faces coming back all year to all the cleanups. So that was super cool.
You just can't recognize anybody because masks.
I know. So and one of the other things that was really cool for the cigarette butt cleanups this last year is all the local businesses who just wanted to be a part of it by donating little raffle prizes for the end. So just wanted to give a shout out to the local businesses who gave really generous raffle prizes. We're just supposed to be little things, and some of them were $20 gift certificates and really cool stuff. So thank you, Stellar and Browsers and Drees and Osa Skin Works and Ember Goods and Fleuret and Buck Spices and Compass Rose. And then also, if you haven't gotten a glass straw, hopefully you will, because Jeremy and Katie Blue from Drinking Glass Straws are always donating, like, to every event that we have. So it's pretty cool.
And I feel like you guys already know how to get involved with Surf Rider.
Because you're here.
But if you have friends that you can bully into, no, I'm just kidding. So yeah, just thank you guys for being involved and participating and being engaged and caring about our ocean waves and beaches, and also just being super rad and fun to hang out with. Hopefully we can do that more in person, because it is far more fun to do that. So oh yeah, and we welcome new EC member Amber. I'm still so excited to have you, and Justin, who you're going to peer pressure, I assume, into joining.
I mean, he is picture.
Yeah, we need his picture. We got his picture. It's up here. So he's on. He's committed. We have his picture. So yeah.
Amber does the newsletters. We're so thankful for that. I have no idea how to do a newsletter. So thank you for taking that on.
Yeah, so it's all been her, everything, every word. It's been great. So thank you so much. And they're not here, but we were going to give a big shout out to Joe and Jill for their service as the EC. So Joe's been our chair for over 2 years, which is what the usual EC requirement is. And that's his little babe, but he's stepping down because he's got a wee child and a goat now and a fairly new job. So, life gets busy. Yeah, he randomly got a goat. I don't know. I still have to go visit the goat. And then, of course, Jill was our rock star Yellow Ropes cleanup coordinator and just film screening extraordinaire. And her life is making her move to Seattle. So she's stepping down as in her role as vice chair, and she's also served her term. So we wish them the best and we appreciate them. But hopefully we'll still see them occasionally on some cleanups and stuff. And then join us. You guys are pretty much all joined us, but but we do have a lot of fun in real time, in real life. So hopefully we'll have some more Boston Harbor meetings, because those were really fun. And with that, yeah, we'll continue with our public meetings on Wednesdays. Keep posting on action alerts and keep you guys updated on legislative stuff. Hopefully have a couple more film screenings. Who knows? Maybe one day they'll be in person at the theater or something.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And yeah, we'll just keep doing butt pickup stuff and hopefully level that up this year. I'm pretty excited to see where that could go going forward.
Yep, and mark your calendars for those definite dates. Washington Coastal Cleanup in April, July 5th we'll always do, and the International Coastal Cleanup. Those ones we know. We always try to add more beach cleanups, but those are the ones that we have definitely said that we would be at. So.
Yeah, and we usually do International Surfing Day, which is I think June 18th this year, mid-June. Yeah. So those are just the outer cleanups. Butt pickups, well, they're a little bit more fast and loose. With that, thank you guys. We did it almost on time.
Yay.
Yay. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, ideas?
Just thank you guys for everything that you do too, because it makes it so much easier for us when you have different events and the film screening and all the different speakers. It's been a really good way for us to not only make friends in this new community of ours, but to also learn more about what it's all about. So
plus we can just show up and pick butts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yellow Ropes. Yeah. It's kind of a life.
Thank you.
Well, if you ever have any ideas of like cool speakers or things you want to learn more about, definitely let us know. Because I've got an infinite reservoir of like nerd things I'm happy to talk about and wrangle speakers on, but I don't know everything. So happy to accommodate anybody's curiosities.